everybody, it's Spinja, and I'm back with another episode. Today we're talking to Stone Hobbit. She's from New Zealand. It's interesting how we crossed paths. It was Robert Khalil's after party, the typical skeptic on New Year's Eve, and I was sort of in the background. Don does all the talking, so but I heard Stone talking, and just some of the things that she was saying just absolutely caught my attention, and so. Um, she strikes me as somebody that is has a lot of information for newbies like me, just figuring things out and just trying to live healthier, live less dependent on the system, and just do our own thing. Stone is from New Zealand, and she's self-sustaining. She grows her own food, and she's got a lot of interesting things to share. I'm really excited. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Spinja. It's always a privilege to come out here and speak for the practices that we do and how to better ourselves without having to be dependent on the system. So, yeah, absolutely. Fire your questions at me, darling. I'm ready to
Oh,
go.
well, one of the things that we were just talking about was how you don't have meat in your diet any longer, and you have been able to find plants that have the same nutritional value, so that you're not lacking. And I would love to hear more about that.
Well, you got to basically work out what you're eating every day, okay? What your body is running on, what your organs need to survive. This is your vessel. This is your Ferrari, your dream car, your dream vessel. And so you've got to learn how to maintain this vessel. You got to know how this vessel operates. Now, I have to look at it as a privilege. It wasn't easy to getting through the stages, but I have to look at it as a privilege of I actually got there in the end. And I worked in biology, human biology, for a number of years. And so I started off by taking people's bloods. I was a blood nurse, okay? And then I went from being a blood nurse to working in a lab. So I was looking into what the bloods were doing, what the infections were doing, how they were operating, what your minerals and vitamins that people needed in the system. I got my hands slapped a couple of times by the organization because I was seeing things that could easily be resolved, and I was asking questions that I wasn't qualified, you know, to actually be asking. And I'm like, well, isn't this meant to be for all? This isn't just some doctor who's gone out there, and no disrespect to anybody who's gone out there and done the years and years of study and all of this, but as an individual here, I need to take care of this vessel, otherwise it's not going to get me from A to B. And now, as an explorer and adventurer, I know I need to take care of this so that I can adventure, I can explore. So I need to know how I function from mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually. So I need to endeavor in discovering these different areas. So it starts with what I put into my mouth. Where does it come from? What are the frequencies that are attached to it? It's not just, okay, I go to the supermarket, I buy a tomato, I go home and eat it. Now, how is my body responding to that tomato? Is that tomato actually a tomato, or is it genetically modified? If it's genetically modified, I'm going to have an adverse reaction to it. Now, I may have built up an adverse reaction to having the natural tomatoes because they come from the nightshade family. We build up our tolerances, but we get to a certain age where our tolerances can't take it anymore. So I have what I call a pooling. We fill up with a toxicity on one level and it just gets coated over. And then later on down the track, we find we have problems. We have cancers, we have stomach ulcers, we have bowel cancers, we have all sorts, we have osteoarthritis. We have all of these different issues. Now, there are a few parasites that come with the different foods we put into our system. Most of the time, what I'm seeing, we are feeding the parasites. And these parasites inside our system give us the inflammations. They give us these ailments, right? They break down the telomeres really fast. It's the TMB in our DNA. You know, there's so many different levels to this. You know, when I'm starting off with newcomers, I don't like terminologies, that's all part of the spell casting, but I work with what I can. So the newcomers that come along that say, I want to improve myself. So the first thing you do is you write a shopping list. What do you eat on a regular basis? What do you go out there to the supermarket to purchase? Are these things that you are purchasing genetically modified, genetically engineered? How processed are they? Now, processed to me comes into the spell side of it, the spell casting side of it. Processed means there's no living energy in it anymore. There's no living actual vitamins, nutrients in it anymore. You might as well go and eat the cushion out of your cushion, okay, out of your seat cover, because you're not getting any goodness from it. You're getting you're getting fullness. You think you're eating something good. You're getting fullness, and that's it. 20 minutes later, when the brain says, okay, I recognize I'm not full anymore, you're going to go out and want something else, right? We're not meant to be eating 3 to 5 meals a day, right? The body, you are overworking your body system by doing that, by putting it through that. You're not fasting. You're not giving your body that time to rest, recalibrate. You're not using your stem cells that the government loves, you know.
Yes.
3 days of fasting will clear up most of the shit that's going on in your system. Sorry about the French. You do a water fast. You don't have to do a dry fast unless you've been doing this for years and years and you know what you're doing. Okay, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist. I know what works for me, and
Yes.
if it works for me, and I've been through the mill. I've been through the mill and back. And I will, if anybody ever comes under my tutorage, I ask 110 questions because we don't want to make mistakes. All
Yes.
right.
Yes.
Your life is very special. You are important. There is so much more to you. And this is why they've hammered us with so much rubbish in the first place. Okay. Because you are valuable. You are valued. And when you work out what your worth is to you, your self-importance, finding yourself higher self-value, then nobody else can touch you. You start questioning, why do you want that from me? This is a one-sided deal. No. So you look at what you're putting in your system. You look at what is it doing to your organs. Now, your organs are very special. These organs, they're named organs for a reason because they put out a form of harmonics. Right? And when they put out a form of harmonics, when you get all of your organs in harmonic with each other, then they're going to produce a better harmonic. You're going to get a lift. You're going to get more energy. You're not going to have this brain fog. Information is going to come to you left, right, center. You're going to see the auric fields around plants and animals and other people. You're going to be able to communicate without actually opening your mouth. Telepathy is with us 24/7. It never left. It never left. It's
Yes, yes.
just, you can have a conversation with somebody just by looking them in the eye, and then all of a sudden you both smile. It doesn't mean you know what each other is thinking, but that frequency has made each other smile. So you've already got telepathy. You've already got all the different clairvoyances and clairsentience and all of this. It's just, do you want to use it? Do you want to actually recognize what you are and how you are functioning? And it comes down to staying truthful to yourself and communicating with you. And then everything else out there becomes so easy, and it really does. And that's coming from me.
I love that. It made me think about a few different things. Let's see. I wrote down, like, in regards to the frequency with the food, like that is fascinating. So, the the GMOs, like that, like, even though you're trying to eat healthy, you're trying to, like, the fruits and vegetables in the grocery store, if they're genetically modified, they're they're dead. Is that, am I understanding that correctly? Like, they're really low frequency? Is that
When it comes, okay, as a biologist, this is the way I see it. Okay, I'm no specialist or anything, but this is from what I've done.
okay? Yeah.
Now, when I first started out changing my food, I went and I was noticing new foods, new vegetables on the shelf. We were getting fluorescent purple cauliflowers and,
Yes,
and
yes.
fluorescent green cauliflowers. And I asked a chap at the veggie store, I says, where do these come from? I've never seen them in my life. Now, I went through a stage where I was a qualified chef. I've got my Pitmans and all of this, and I was a qualified chef. So I'm looking at the new foods that are coming. I'm very skeptical about. I cannot go. This is the thing you'll have to take acknowledgement for. When you get to a certain level of awareness of the foods that are being produced and put on your plate, you no longer will be visiting fast food stores or takeaways or even going to restaurants, because you want to know what you are putting on your plate and into your body and what you are serving to those closest around you. I would love to be able to go to a restaurant, but that's out of the cards. I just can't. It's just a fantasy that once in the background. So enjoy it while you can, okay? But when you start realizing, when you've eaten a meal from somewhere else and you start feeling aches and pains or getting diarrhea or getting, you fart a lot, that's bread. That's protein. If it stinks, it's proteins. If you fart a lot, that's gases from an intolerance in your system. That's your body working so hard to break down these food products that you're putting in. It's working so hard, it's aging you faster because, well, your stomach's got to work so hard. It's got to
Mhm.
send out the right sorry, excuse me. It's got to send out the right workers. It's got to send out the right workers to break down. Like, you go and pick up a metal fork, and I say this in just about every interview I do. You go and pick up a metal fork. These fingerprints that we've got on here are sensors, right? You pick up that metal fork and that sensors is going down to the stomach saying metal, metal, metal. But you're putting organic on your fork, but you're not registering as organic. You're putting that metal into your mouth. It's not registering as organic.
Wow.
Okay. So now you've got whatever's trying to break down metal in your stomach, but you put organic in there, right?
Oh
So
my
it's,
goodness.
yeah, so the closest thing to our organic system is wood or
Oh,
plant matter, right? So I eat with chopsticks.
okay.
All my fingers. There is if you look at all the cultures, they will do a little bit of something positive. And so for me, the Asian side of it was eating with my fingers. I mean, my culture, the Maori culture, we ate with our fingers. We didn't use chopsticks. We didn't use anything like that, leaves or fingers, because of the sensors in our fingers. The food is being, okay, we're going to get some organic matter here. So my enzymes are ready to break down organic matter. So that would break it down a lot faster. The right enzymes will be working at the right speed. But if I'm putting in the wrong information, I'm not going to get the benefit of the food that I'm putting into my system. And that is a huge thing. So when it comes to the GMO or the engineered fruits and stuff, now I worked in my teenage days, I worked in a fruit farm, a kiwi fruits, berry fruits, tomatoes. I worked on the land, organic planting, and I watched the change. We're going back to the 80s here. I watched the change in the fruits and vegetables, and I watched the introduction of Roundup, glyphosates. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, so I got to see things through the changes, and working in strawberries, and I got to meet people who were having babies with an extra digit, fingers, toes, and I got to see what they did and how the popularity was, oh, your baby is a mutant, cut that limb off, blah blah blah, even though it was totally operationable. So I got to see what was going on there. When you look at the adventure that you've had, you'll start seeing that you actually have been participating in a human experiment. Okay. And I know nobody wants to hear this sort of stuff. Nobody wants to know that they are the experiment of da 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 da, A, B, and C gene. But it is true. It is true. When you go, okay, well, I no longer wish to be part of your experiment. I wish to be the scientist experimenting on myself, seeing how I work, because you're not giving me back the details that you've collected in from A to B stage to where now I recognize that more is going on. Now I'm taking responsibility for my actions. I'm taking responsibility for what I put into this vessel. That means I have to take responsibility in the soil that's going to grow my plant. Now, so I go out to the store and I get a tomato. I'm using tomatoes as my example because I worked with tomatoes back in the 80s, 82, and there was this big thing about tomatoes are going to save the planet, blah, 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 blah. And it never left me. Now, I went into the supermarket last week and I can't buy the fruit and vegetables that are there, because if you pick up a fruit or vegetable and you can't smell it, don't buy it.
oh,
Okay.
wow.
Don't buy it. If it does not have a smell of that particular type of fruit or vegetable, don't buy it. You're buying rubbish. Okay. You're buying dead food. Okay. Now, they have found throughout time that in our DNA that we have a copy of, and it's called DNA memory. Okay. RNA, whatever you want to call it. We, like water, hold memory of not just what we have consumed today, but what our ancestors, our bloodlines have consumed in the past.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So what they ate then, we have memory of today. And if we eat or consume a vegetable of yesterday and our memory kicks in and goes, that doesn't smell right. Why doesn't it smell right? I don't know why it doesn't smell right. Because your memory bank is telling you that something has changed, whether it's either in the soil, the actual plant itself, the atmosphere. We're getting bombarded left,
Yes,
right.
yeah.
So you get a tomato that's GMO. Now, get the seed that is in it and grow it. See how it grows. You get a strawberry that's GMO, see how it grows. When it grows with so many deformities, just leave it alone. Just throw it out, dump it, burn it, do whatever. It's not going to give you what you're looking for. But you're not going to throw out somebody who is born with a deformity in your family. You're going to care for them and you're going to love them. You're going to
Mhm.
know. And one day they may have a child, to carry on the line, right? So you've got to think about all the genetic manipulations that have happened throughout how many ever generations. It doesn't mean the next version is going to be a bad version. And that's how I feel with the GMO engineering. We can back geoengineer just the same as what they've been doing. And
Mhm.
I've done it. Somebody said to me one day, you can't grow that popcorn. It's GMO and you can't grow it. So I put it out on the grass. I just a little test. If somebody tells me I can't do something, this
Just
thing
watch
is
me.
right there that says, yes, you can. You watch. I'll prove it to you. I went out and I planted it and it grew. And then I had this person who was trying to help me out one day and he mowed over it. This poor plant got mowed over 4 times. And then it grew. I put this mesh netting around it so they could leave it alone. And I got 4 sweet corn out of it. And
Oh
what
wow.
I had done was with them mowing it 4 times, they genetically changed it.
Oh, that is so cool.
Okay. Because that forced the growth and it forced this and that and everything else for it to kick in. And so when I got the actual sweet corn, I dried out one whole cob just to see if I could make popcorn. And sure enough, I did. And it was nice. So when it comes to if you can get a seed from any plant that is genetically modified, you can back engineer it, but you got to know what you're doing. Now, one thing I say to people is watch what's happening on our planet right now. Back in the day, I was a fanatic with pineapple and I loved pineapple. And then one day, the company that I bought the pineapple from turned around and said there was a virus, there was a bug that was eating infestation, and they had to wipe out their whole plantation. 2 years later, I went and bought a pineapple from this organization. And when I cut it open, it had what I called pineapple warts. If I knew I was going to go into this topic, I would have actually pulled up
Oh,
the photos and shown you. But there was what I called pineapple warts in it, and I couldn't eat that. Oh my God, that wasn't normal. And then I smelt it, and the smell was different. And so I was like, well, this is not normal. So I looked into the company and I got the information. There was 1 or 2 words, that's all it took. And I realized I knew that what they had done was they had wiped out the organic field of the pineapples and replaced it with the genetically modified pineapple that they were selling to the market. Because they were a reputable name at the time, they did it. Now I'm
oh,
seeing the same
that's up.
thing right now, and this is going to be a real kick in the pants for a lot of people
Yeah.
with cocoa, okay? Chocolate. Prices of
Mm-hmm.
chocolate is about to go through the roof because there's an infestation and it's wiping out the entirety of chocolate, okay? The cocoa is not going to be available for the next 10 years the way that it is now. It's genetically being modified.
That is so gross. That is
Okay.
so gross.
Mm. Well, they want us to eat bugs and be
Oh
happy.
yeah. 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 Just attack everything. Like this is unbelievable.
Oh, there's
Um,
so many areas. There's just honestly, there's so many areas. My basic thing when I get people coming along and saying, okay, I want to go down this path, I want to do this. I'm a navigator. Okay. And the first thing that I say is, you got to do the work.
Yep.
Right. I'll give you the information on the areas that I've worked on, but you got to find out, and you got to keep a logbook for yourself. Whatever aches and pains. Now, you got to also remember that when we are trying to cure things like cancer and osteoarthritis and all of these other things, we go through a stage where our bodies will kick in and fight us and say, no, 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 we don't want you starving us. We need this food to feed this cancer. And so
Mm-hmm.
you go through an aggressive stage and you think, oh, I've got to get better. I've got to get better. So you go and take something else that somebody gives you, and it relaxes you a little bit more and you're a little bit more at ease, but you're actually just feeding the cancer,
Yeah.
right? We're not meant to have hot showers on our breasts as women.
Hmm.
And yet, and yet, and there's also drinks out there, aspartame. Please,
Oh,
ladies and guys, get off drinking anything or having anything to do with aspartame, because it causes lymphatic cancers.
yeah.
Your lymphatic system covers your breasts and goes right through your whole system, in your groin, right down your legs, right? So any of these really important reproductive organs will get hit.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
aspartame that is from my research, my personal research,
Yes.
aspartame is the worst thing. All right. Yeah.
I've encountered the same thing. Like even at the beginning stages, I've run across that. So that was one of the first things to go. And some of the things that you've been saying, it's been validation for Don and I. Like, we have um we don't do takeaway anymore. Like it is very rare. I do own it like every once in a while, but it doesn't taste the same.
No.
And once you get away from it, once you get away from packaged food, like that's what's happening us with us right now. It's like it doesn't taste the same. And then if you do go back, like if like for me, like if I'm in a social setting, like I haven't quite got there yet, and I try something like, mainstream, it's like, oh, I remember why I don't eat this anymore.
Yeah, you're already there. You're already on that track. You're and I can't see myself. This is like 20 years now. I mean, every now and then I'll say, okay, I want this or that. But then when it comes down to it, I can't buy it. I can't purchase it. I can't bring myself to it.
Yes.
If I want those flavors, I have to get inside my head and create those flavors. Like, I really was craving some bacon. I haven't had bacon for like nearly 20 years, but I was craving some bacon. And so, well, what a beetroot and cannellini beans with some chili.
Ooh.
My main meat base is mushrooms. Okay.
Mushroom. Oh, I love mushrooms.
I can turn mushrooms into sausages, meat burger patties, you name it. When it comes to making chicken, I do things like the tofu, or a stretch flour, but I make my own flour. I grind my own wheat. I grind my own oats because I want to know where it's coming from. I want to know that there's actually essence, life, and sustainability in the foods that I'm putting into my system. I want my system to remember and recognize the goodness in the organics that I put in. At the moment, now I know before we started, the one of the key words was kombucha.
Yes,
And
yes.
I'm very into probiotics. All right. And it's like changing your system from acidic to alkaline. And one of the first things that we did there was we went into pickled or fermented garlic, fermented or
Ooh.
pickled onions, everything started becoming pickled or fermented. Now, to ferment something, you just stick it into water. You allow its own juices to do the breakdown, the bacterial growth process. And this is something that you can't do overnight. You have to actually study and learn, because there are other bacteria that aren't safe for us. And you only learn by example. But then when it comes to the other stages of the long-term fermenting, like the cabbages, if you want to start doing something, the best bet I say is get a jar,
Mm-hmm.
get your garlic. Doesn't matter whether it's organic or GMO, whatever. Get your garlic, chop it up, stick it in a jar, fill it up with water, and watch it for the next 2 to 3 days. What you will see, keep that lid sealed. The garlic should turn blue. That's the sulfate in the garlic. Now
Okay.
I'm lactose intolerant, and anybody who is suffering from asthma, you're probably lactose intolerant. Any
Oh,
dairy stuff like this, all right? There is a cause. For every cause, there is a solution. There is a reason why your body is telling you that you're either in an environment that's not active, that's not working for you, or you are eating something that is not working for your internal environment. For me, I was an asthmatic for a very long time, to the point where I developed other, allergic reactions to penicillin and bee stings and shellfish. If you get too much of something too soon and your body hasn't had time to adjust to it, what happens is you get an alert system that goes on in your system, and it tells you you are now allergic to this, and every time you eat this, this is the reaction we're going to have because it's now in our memory banks,
mm,
right? So I was anaphylaxis with bee stings. So what they did to me was they would sting me every now and then. This is through the experimental process of curing me, as a child. And then they started giving me these pills, and then they started stinging me again. Now I'm good. I can actually go and I've got photos of it. I can actually stick my face into a beehive, and I can now,
wow.
I've got photos, and I can communicate with the bees, because it took its different stages of awareness of that particular area. So you pick one area of your life that you want to change or you want to become aware of, because there's just too many areas. So you
Yes.
just pick one to focus on, all right? And don't kick yourself if you don't get it right, because what that is just saying is there's room for growth, all right? You have to make mistakes to be able to improve the situations that you're in that show themselves. It just means that, okay, well, there's another area that I've got to look into, all right? That's all it means. Um, I'm a programmer, so I see where when people talk to me in NLP, I go, well, I know what you're trying to say to me. I know what the information is you're trying to get from me, and it's not working on me. Talk to me like a normal person, because that's the truth. I don't want somebody advertising something or trying to get information from me. This is not how I work. This is what we got to take accountability for ourselves. So where was
Yes.
I? Okay, so I'm going to jump back to the garlic. The garlic should turn blue because it's sulfate. Okay, now it'll have a white layer that sits at the bottom of. That's what you are normally allergic to. I can't eat garlic straight raw because I get gases, I get stomach cramps, I get all sorts of blimmin' inflammation going on. But if I pickle it and it turns blue, I know that the lactose in it has fallen to the bottom to make that white film, and I can eat the garlic and I can enjoy it as much as anybody else can, right? So, and it's the same as making sauerkraut. When I go out there, there's been cabbages that I have bought. Now, the process to making sauerkraut is you chop it up finely, you stick it in a bucket, you put a layer of salt on it. I go to the different stages now. I make my own apple cider vinegar. I pour that on it. I put in pumpkin seeds. I put in carrot. I add chili flakes to it. I give it a kick because I know that our system needs certain other spices. And if I could throw it all into the probiotics at the same time, I'm going to get the best outcome in one mouthful. So that's I'm feeding all the organs, not just one or two. Like if you have a gut ache or you have ulcers in your stomach, my best recommendations, and I'm only working with the fact that I've gone through this myself, okay? I had stomach ulcers, I had internal bleeding, I had issues with my bowels because of bowel bleeding because I was on 22 different types of tablets for having a back injury, right?
Wow.
They broke my back in 3 places. And I say that's another story for another day. And when I went through all the x-rays and they wanted to do an operation, they wanted to fuse 3 of my vertebrae. I said, no way, I want to walk. I don't want to be in a wheelchair. And you go and do this, I'm not going to be able to walk. And then out of nowhere, I got a person came out and said, look, this is what they did to me. I'm still crawling out of bed. I'm still on medication. The operation didn't resolve any of the issues. And so I fought the pains for 20 years and I weaned myself off these medications bit by bit. It doesn't mean that, I mean, this comes down to management. It
Mhm.
comes down to knowing what my capabilities and my limitations are and not knocking myself about it. If Joe Blow over there turns around and says, oh, you're a pissant because you can't do this and that, well, I'll say, well, you do it for me for then. If you got a problem with me not being able to do, you do it, go right ahead. I don't have a problem with the terminologies or what you're going to, you want to put me down, you go for it. But when you're crippled, right, don't come asking me for help
Mhm.
because I may not be available. I might be over there doing another job. All right. Know what your limitations are. You don't need to be put into the programming of, they do it, they program us at school to
Mhm.
put our hand up when we have a question. You have a question, you put your hand up, you ask the question, and they shoot you down for it. They
Yep.
say, where'd you come up with that stuff from? But that's a genuine question, otherwise you wouldn't put your hand up. So the programming is very, very strong. There are many levels to the warfare, you know,
Mhm.
warfare of who you are, keeping us in stuck states. You don't need to be there any longer. You need to shake off that shell, grow some of these kahunas, we got to step up to the plate, look after ourselves. You
Yes.
cannot be service to others if you can't be service to self. My grandmother used to say, I'll give you whatever I can, but I'm not going to give you the shirt off my back because then I'm going to go cold. And if I
Yes.
go cold, I can't give you the knowledge that I'm aware of that can save your life.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. If you know that you can go out there and you can make a shirt from a plant, you can do that. You can give that shirt off your back. But you need to be aware that you can do it in the first place.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So it's the same with the sauerkraut. It's the same with anything that you pickle or ferment. Know what you're putting in there. Know the breakdowns. Know the enzymes. Know the vitamins of what you're putting in there. If you make sauerkraut, it's different to making kombucha. Kombucha is tea. You take it to a certain level where it's the change, it's the breakdown, it's the fermentation of going from plant turning to yeast, the yeast eating the glucose or the sugar out of the plant, the yeast eats it and turns it into alcohol. So it's the yeast's waste products, all right, becomes alcohol. You have to burp it. If you don't burp it,
Okay.
you're gonna have an explosion.
Yeah, yeah.
But it becomes alcohol. You got to become that scientist, that experimentalist. You know, you got to see what works. I mean, you can make kombucha out of anything. You can make vodka pretty much out of anything, right? You can make medicines galore when you are aware of the plant that you are communicating with. So you write your shopping list. What do I eat each week? So I eat celery. How do I grow my celery? Well, when you get that plant of celery, you cut off about 2 inches of it, stick it into a cup of water or a lid with water in it, and you watch it grow. All right. All you got to do is break off the outsides. As soon as it starts to sprout, break off the. People say to me, I'm limited with space. That's no excuse. You got windows?
Right?
Okay. There's no excuse. In my reality, there is no excuse. You know, you haven't seen the way I live. There's no excuse. Um, clean water, millbank bags. Now I do prepping, I do bushcraft, I do the whole, the whole work. Right now we've got no water because they haven't switched the pump over. We're on spring water, and if they switch the water over for the animals, which are
Yeah.
more important than humans, then we get no water. We have to go down to the creek or the well and we have to bucket it up ourselves. This is the thing. And then when we get it, if we have to bucket it up from out of the well, we put it through a millbank bag. Now they call them millbank bags because these were the bags that you got from the the wheat mill. Once they had bagged once they had bagged up the flour from milling it, that bag would work as a filter system. So
Oh.
in that bag you would put, and I put, sand, moss, dirt, charcoal, not in that particular order. And then you have a little hole in the very corner and you hang it high. Gravitation does work. So you fill that up with the water that you want to purify. It goes through and it comes out the very corner. I mean, a lot of people don't have all the fandango technologies and stuff out there to make all these systems, but all you
Mm.
really need is to pack that bag full of dirt or whatever is cleanest around you in that area, rocks, dirt, whatever, and you let it come through. But then you have to boil it. Make sure you boil it. That kills any, what is it, Giardia, any of these other bugs that may grow in the water in that time.
Mm.
But biology is fantastic. I love watching how fast bugs grow, right? Germs grow. They grow at a rapid speed because they have a short life cycle.
Mm.
So you have to make sure that you protect yourself against this cycle. So if you have to filter your water, make sure you boil it afterwards. You cannot rely on a system that's going to give you aquatic tablets or that are going to purify your water for X amount of time and all of this. If you're living in a society like what we can see happening, you have
Yes.
to prep yourself. You have to go back to saying, okay, well, now I have to live like a medievalist or a Viking or a native from this era or a native from that era. How did they do what they did? Go back
Mm.
to the basics. How did they build their shelters? How did they store their foods when there was no fridges? This is the knowledge that we've lost. It takes 3 generations for us to lose this knowledge. You've
Yes.
grown up in one location where you knew the names of every single street. Then one day you come back to this place and they've changed the whole name of the whole location.
Yep.
And then you look on the map and you find that location, but it's not in the area that you remember growing up in. It's now up north. or it's down south, and it's like, how did that move? This is what they do to change so many things on us,
Oh yeah.
in our environment, the
Yeah.
water, the system. There's so many areas I could cover on this about the water filtration, who owns the water, what they're trying to do to the water, the chlorides, the chlorides, the fluorides, how to take care of your teeth. When you're off grid and stuff, you can't just pop down the road to the dentist.
No.
You know, you don't know what they're going to jab in your mouth to numb it anymore.
Right.
You got
No.
to think about what you need to survive. I
Hmm.
need to make sure my eyesight, my hearing, my teeth, all my organs work in separate ways. I need to be able to know what's telling me what by the pains that it's giving me. I did an article just recently about becoming friends with your pain. Your pain is there for a reason. It's
Yes.
letting
Yes.
you know that something's not functioning properly in your body. It also lets you know that you are healing in a certain area. So unless you can differentiate between those two pains, you're going to think the healing pain is a negative pain where you're actually dying from it, and boom, you're going to feed the wrong thing. So you
Mm.
need to know who you are and what you're putting in. One of the best things that I ever did for myself, and I don't recommend it for anybody, it's just where you're at that time. Start off small.
Hmm.
Okay, you got to look after yourself.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I ended up doing a 52-day water fast. Right. And for me, it was the best thing that I could have ever done. I used to suffer really bad from many different forms of pain, acute pains. I lived with pain daily. And one of the worst ones I would get was endometriosis. As
Okay.
soon as soon as I started getting a little niggling that, in an ovary that, ooh, it's coming on, if I didn't hit the painkillers that I was programmed to do, this pain would it would engulf me. It would knock me out. I would be curled up in a fetal position. It's one of the worst pains women can suffer, right? And yeah, it was bad. And I have not had an attack from that since I did my fasting for 52 days. All right. I kicked in my stem cells. It emptied out a lot of rubbish in my system. Took 3 days for the stem cells to kick in. And I highly recommend it for anybody who wants to repair themselves. You do just do a couple of days. Just do a couple of days of just liquid fasting. You
Hmm.
might, you go through these different parts where your body's going to say you're craving sugar, you're craving this or that, or you're going to get a headache. Now, when you start fasting, one of the things that happens in the fasting is the worms inside the parasites inside our body, and we are literally loaded with different types of parasites. And of course, you don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are. So if you eat meat, I'm sorry about that, you know. But anyway, moving on, when you get to a certain time zone, like maybe 30 hours to 38 hours of actually a liquid fast, you start getting a dull headache. And what's happening is it's draining that liquid that you would normally, all those chemicals that would normally be feeding these parasites. So these parasites are now going to be, excreting as much waste as they can to let you know that they're hungry because you're starving them. So you get a headache, and then what do? You go and reach for the nearest thing to relieve yourself from these symptoms. Push through that. Push through that. You're not going to die in 3 days as long as you're taking in your fluids and your electrolytes. Now, what I do on the first day is I just have water, just water. The second day, I add something like a little bit of flavor, like a little bit of lemon, which starts changing my pH level. And then I add a little bit of Himalayan salt, which gives me my minerals. It kicks in my magnesiums. And because one of the things that happens to us is we eat all of this different, so many different types of foods that we block, we block the areas like your insulin doesn't work properly. It shuts down. You don't get the vitamins in the right areas because we've blocked all of that off. So by allowing yourself a couple of days fasting once a month, you're improving, you give your stem cells a chance to kick in. You're not using your stem cells. So by not using your stem cells, you're starving yourself of healing this medicine. You're allowing yourself to age because you're not allowing your body to function fully for you. There's so many areas, honey. There's so many areas.
This just it makes sense. Like the way that you're explaining it, it's I find it really logical. Like it just um yeah. So getting back to where you said about like if you have a window, you don't have any excuses. I've been trying to encourage people with that as well. Like even if you just grow your own herbs, you're doing something which like you're going in the right direction. So
Yeah.
what I was wondering, do you have any recommendations? Okay, so Dawn and I have a small garden. Is there anything that is more beneficial? I know it's all good, but somebody that's just starting out, like, is there like better, healthier, easier to grow? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, like,
Okay, the two that I will kick off straight out that came to mind straight away is parsley. Parsley, it's a seasonal thing, but it's a blood thinner, and it tastes good too. It opens up your sinuses. It does a lot of things. Then comes mint. Mint does the sinuses, the breathing, the inhalation. Then comes Jerusalem artichoke. Now
oh,
I use all the leaves in cooking when they're young. I use them for cooking. I use them for making kombucha. Then the roots grow so fast. They are a potato replacement.
oh,
Okay, and then you got the flour. I boil up the flour, and it's also a medicine. It's also used in my kombucha medicines. There's so many different varieties of vitamins within this plant. It's like a magical plant. Parsley, I recommend parsley for everybody on this planet because one of the things that we have a lack of oxygen in our blood. We're not meant to be H2O. We're meant to be higher. We're meant to be what is it, H6O. All right. The pine trees have given me this information. If you've got good, healthy pine needles and they're not GMO, I mean, you got to look at it. At the end of the day, where we're at now, we've lived generation after generation, and everything they've done, every food, plant matter, everything that's out there has been at some stage genetically modified or engineered. All right,
mhm.
at some stage. I mean, this is not the first human generation, as
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way I see it. Okay, so we do the best that we can with the tools and what we have around us. If you go out and you have a pine tree and you've identified it, there's a lot of resources out there on YouTube and the internet. Don't just pick one, please, please pick several. Do your research. Go and look at these pine needles. I do pine needle tea. One handful is all I need. That's the highest, one of the highest vitamin C's that you can get is pine needle tea. All right. I also do stinging nettle. I make my own stinging nettle. I have it growing everywhere. That's one of the highest vitamin C minerals. A lot of these plants, I also grow my own algae. So yeah, I know I'm a bit of a, I play with everything because I know that I can. I know I'm looking after myself now. I know that I'm responsible for my actions. And if I can make something work for me, then I'm only going to give the best information I can to somebody else. But I want to be able to condense it down so that it's so easy that nobody can make any mistakes on it. But where I'm at right now is like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a specialist. Make sure you do your research,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
don't just get it from one resource. Don't just
Yes.
get it from one resource. And learn how to identify what is GMO and what's not. And one of the ways is the skin texture. You need to find one of each to be able to know for sure. The carrots, do they change color faster than they did 10 years ago?
Mhm.
You know, tomatoes, if you can't smell the tomato, if you can grow a tomato and you squeeze the leaf and then you pick up a tomato at the supermarket, it does not smell like that leaf that you squeezed, that don't you be putting that into your system. All right. I rather now, I now, because I'm aware of it, and I don't recommend this for anybody unless you're aware of it, I will eat the berries off nightshade because I know what's safe and what's not safe.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it's the same with mushrooms, do your research first before you go and endeavor to do anything else. Safety's
Yes.
first.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I actually have a friend who does videos, and it's the same thing. It's called, he's Wolf in the Wilds, and he goes and talks about different plants in well, this is in Ontario, Canada, and he talks about the medicinal benefits and like the nutritional values and things like that that you find in the wild. But again, like, definitely, like what you're saying, definitely do your homework, make sure. But I think don't be scared either, right? Like, as long
Yeah,
as
I
you
mean,
do it
this
wise, like,
how we've come to this point is we've had accidents, we've eaten the wrong things, and we've learned from it. You
yes,
know,
yes,
if you do that, make sure you keep a log. Everything should be logged somewhere for your own record, let alone anybody else's. Now, I highly recommend baking soda, having baking soda and having apple cider vinegar. So knowing the basics. So if you've got some forms of salt, salt without aluminium in it, check your containers. Baking soda without aluminium in it. They are the main things for cleaning. I use eucalyptus oil. I use it in my cooking. I use it in my cleaning. I use it in being able to breathe. I don't use shampoos. I don't use conditioners. I use baking soda, salt, or vinegar.
okay,
Right? You grow your own vinegar. All right. You can do all of these things you can grow yourself. There are eucalyptus trees around where I will go and, if the bark starts to peel away, I'll take 2 or 3 pieces of strippings off this bark and I'll bring it home and I'll boil it up and I'll boil it down. Um, Gone to the stage where my water filter is no longer a water filter. It was a purifier back in the day when I first started doing this trip. It's now, it makes alcohol and it now makes oils. It's so, you can turn things into it and you take it one step further and further and further until you no longer need any form of electricity. Learn how to light a fire. One
yes,
of the first things is learn how to light a fire without a match, without a lighter, without all these other things that are so available to us. I mean, what have I got on my desk here right now? Right, that's the keys, a fire starter, carry this, you start to carry stuff with you as a prepper. You'll have the basics. You'll have some sort of blade on you and you'll have a fire starter. Anything else you can create yourself. So that's what it comes down to. You start to know the plants the habits of nature, the seasons, you know, how to dig yourself a hole. There's no reason for us to be stuck out in a storm and die in the cold. You
Yes,
know,
yes,
digging a hole, covering it over and stuff, that soil will keep us warm. There's so many things. I mean, I love
yeah.
this. I love it.
This,
Turn, turn your life into an adventure experience. That's why we're here.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Oh, like things are like it's getting really exciting, and you filled in so many gaps for me, and I've got like 3 pages of notes now just from what you've been saying, like just for research that I want to do. And this has been very encouraging because this you've um made like come up with some ideas, like get got the ideas going for me, like with Don. Like he's had some digestive issues and things like that, and so now we have an idea of where to research, like like taking what you've said and then also like doing our own research as well. Like this has been wonderful. And
Okay, so
like,
I just want to jump in for a minute. Sorry, darling. Okay, so Don, you know, what is it? What is it that you're eating that's giving you these digestive issues?
Um, as of late, it's red meat, but when you go back further, I had a motorcycle accident. Much like yourself, I was handed painkillers for years and years and years. I was eating morphine and Percocet
Yeah.
daily until probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I looked at my doctor and went, "Can I just smoke pot?" And she's like, "Yes." And I'm like,
Okay,
"Great, right?" But
cabbage.
I
Go out there and buy yourself a cabbage. Now you'll be able to smell it. You'll be able to see the shape of it. If it's a flat head, I mean, if it's like narrow and flat head, don't buy it. You want a decent round cabbage, okay? One that you know that you could squeeze a leaf and you can actually smell the cabbage juice in it. Take it home, cut off a quarter, boil that quarter up. Don't tip that juice out because that's what you need to be drinking. The enzymes, the all the goodness, the materials you need to heal your gut ulcers is in the cabbage juice. Water.
okay.
Okay. So just have a cup of that a day or 2 cups. You can't overdose yourself on cabbage juice water. All right. If you eat
Thank
the
you.
cabbage like capsicums and some other plants, skin plants will sit in your colon and eventually rot and give us issues. But if you're drinking the juice, all right, that's going to wash that through. Same with onions. You know, I'm addicted to onions. I've got to have an onion every single day. You know, but cabbage juice is the thing that will cure you from stomach digestive issues. If you have acid or reflux, you want to have a teaspoon of aluminium free baking soda. And the easiest way to get it down is I will put it into a warm cup of water, half a cup, stir it round and glug it down. Okay, shut it down. And then have your follow-up shoot of water afterwards. But you get that down, and that is like what they call enos and all of these other.
oh,
Okay, so you just want to have your baking soda. What that is doing is you have a high acidic value, blood level, pH level in your system, and your body is reacting to acidic when you put it into your system. This includes medication. So when you turn around, and this is why they say to you, don't eat grapefruit when you are on certain medications, right? So you go and put your baking soda in, it's going to start changing your pH levels. And when it starts changing your pH levels, that's when you start introducing the cabbage juice water.
Mm.
All right, it will clear up your any kind of stomach ulcer that you've got, any kind of stomach parasites that you've got. It will rebalance your pH level in your gut, and it will even get rid of worms. All right.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're both going to be doing that.
Yep.
It's a regular in this household. I mean, once you start doing that and see that there is actually a positive, I mean,
Yes.
you've got to remember when you introduce something new into your regular system, there's going to be some fight back from some of the creatures that are inside our system, the way we've been feeding them for whatever amount of time. And then they're going to say, well, we're not getting what we want over here anymore. We're going to send out signals to the brain to let you know we want sugar. We want this. The pH level's not the right. We're gonna give you a headache, or we're gonna ache you over here. But if you push yourself past that, this goes for all forms of medication that they've had us on too. When you push past that and keep doing that, 7-day process, cabbage juice every day, just 1 glass a day, and I don't think it's a bad taste. I think cabbage is actually quite nice. If you want to change it up a step, add a little squirt of lemon juice or lime juice or some sort of citrus juice to that. And you watch how fast you will change that whole cycle. And before you know it, you will be wanting cabbage and fermented cabbage. When you start having fermented cabbage, you'll start going, well, I want pickled onions. I had a craving for pickled onions. I want pickled gherkins. I want sauerkraut. And then you'll start seeing how your whole system will change. And you'll go, I haven't had any medication for a month. What's wrong with me? Yeah.
I appreciate that, because that's something else. Like, one thing that I struggle with is texture aversion. I'm not playing the blame my mom card, um because when I was a kid, if I didn't like it, I didn't have to eat it, and if she didn't like it, she didn't feed it to me. So I didn't have broccoli until I was like 18 years old. So this has been a struggle for me. So it's weird, because with cabbage, like I can do cabbage rolls, but I can't do coleslaw because of the texture. So what you're saying with the cabbage water, I feel like this could be something that's going to help me go in the step in the right direction too.
Well, you don't need to eat cabbage. You can just have the liquids. I mean, when I do when I do the fermenting here, I have a lot of juice left over. Like when I do the sauerkraut, the 90% of the sauerkraut is you put it in, you sprinkle a bit of salt on it. You put some more in, you sprinkle your salt on it. Whatever ingredients you want to put into it. Vegetable ingredients. I'm not talking about, anything else. What happens is when you're pushing it down, when you're bruising the cabbage, it releases a liquid, okay? And that liquid is what it ferments itself in. Now I have normally I have 2 or 3 buckets going, but because I'm in the stage of house moving, I've only got 1 going. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You've got to get past the stink of it. But once you've tasted it, the stink doesn't matter anymore. It's like surströmming, Scandinavian surströmming. They pickle their shark, they pickle their fish, and it's like it's rotted, but it's not rotted in a toxic way. It might stink, and you don't want to get that stink on you, but when you eat it, it's like a delicacy. All right. And this is how I find the sauerkraut. I love making sauerkraut now, because I know that once I've got the solid matter of it, it's not the same as if it was raw, or make the spring rolls out of cabbage rolls. It's softer than that. It's a different type of texture. It takes on a new texture. But if you're not satisfied with that, you've got all that juice, all that
Beautiful.
in that juice, and it's probiotics. It's living. I mean, if I've got too much left over and I don't put it in a jar to just drink, I will pour it onto the next batch that I'm going to make, and it speeds up the bacteria changeover. So, the development of the next batch. So I'll take a nip glass to 2 nip glasses, and I'll straight shot it each day. And it kicks the system in. It's like, yeah, let's go. It's good for hair growth, it's good for teeth, it's good for everything. Everything can regrow itself if you let it, if you communicate it, if they don't cut it off or pull it out, you know. So yeah, yeah.
That's
We just weren't instructed to believe in ourselves enough, and it was like, oh, you've got to believe in authority, they know better than you do, and they're going to look after you. And now that everybody's been so mollycoddled and wrapped up in cotton wool, they don't know how to look after themselves in the basics. You know, when this whole thing happened a couple of, 3 years ago, people panicked, what are they going to wipe their butts with, and they were panicking, you know.
yes.
Just hose yourself off in the blimmin'. They didn't always have toilet rolls, They had a rag and a bit of water.
Oh,
Why do you think?
exactly. That's where I was at. It's like, all right, I have a bunch of cotton yarn. If I have to make up some cloths, then there's
Well, what do you
there's
think the
water,
hanky was? What do you think the hanky was all about?
right?
You know, it's I call it a little common sense, but I've got called a lot of names too in my for being a bit different. But this is where it is. One day something might happen. We've got no power, we've got no electricity, we've got no forms of communication. We're now here on our own. What are you going to do? You're going to survive? You're going to panic? What are you going to do?
Yeah,
And so I am here and I'm going to survive come
yeah,
hell or high water. And now's the time to practice. When you grow these plants that you buy regularly from the supermarket and you're seeing them growing on your windowsill, and then you get a pot of water, because you start communicating with this plant, you start watching it grow, and you get so excited when it starts to
yes,
flower and seed, and before you know it, you've got a generation of seed in your hand. you know you grow it till it seeds, so the cycle of your plants. Then I'll look out and I'll say, well, look at your garden, you've got 20 celery plants out there. Where'd you get those from? You grew them yourself from that one that you bought from the supermarket. you know Little things mean a hell of a lot more than
yes,
going out there and buying it every week and
yes,
buying toxicity, because that's what
yeah,
you're doing.
yes,
You walk into a supermarket and the first thing you do is you get radiated. Facial recognition, don't
hmm,
fart 'cause they can see it. They know everything about you when you walk in a supermarket.
yeah,
They've got it all listed. But when you take that celery plant home, you're not throwing it out, you're growing it. You know?
yeah, yeah. No, I would really rather just go to my backyard and do my shopping back there.
Well, that's what a pharmacy really is about. So anyway, anything
Yes.
else you want to with?
Um, I think that answers a lot of my questions. I really appreciate it. Like, is there anything else that you think that we like that somebody just figuring stuff out needs to know? You've given us a lot of information. Like, this has been amazing.
The first thing is get yourself a little diary book and work out what it is that you want to learn, because there's so many areas. I mean, you have one book for vegetables and plants and medicines, another for fabrics and how to weave and make clothing and stay warm, another for the basics like fire starting and getting resin from trees and this sort of thing. You work out what it is that you want to learn. It's basically, okay, well, I've learned society's trades because that's what I was programmed to learn. But now I want to learn to survive. The power's gone out, there's nobody around me. What am I going to do? So I need to learn how they did this, how they did that, how they managed. That might sound like a lot of hard work to people out there who like, oh, we've got electricity, or we can go to the fridge for that piece of ice. Well, that's fine. If you want to live that way, that's fine. But at the end of the day, the value comes in, do you have a trade you can offer when there's nothing out there? When shit hits the fan, If
Yes.
it doesn't, then that's good for all of us. But
Yes. Yes.
should it hit the fan, the value in you will be what you can bring to the table tomorrow. And if you don't have salt, which was poor man's gold, because it was used for wounds, it was used for cleaning, it was used for preserving, all of this other things. If you don't know the basics of some of this stuff, then what do you have to offer for your survival or that of your family? You know, this is just the way my brain works.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Uh,
I Yeah, it's funny because I saw a bumper sticker that said um something along spinning isn't like spinning yarn isn't a craft, it's a post-apocalyptic skill. And I know that this was said tongue in cheek, but it's like not really.
no, there's no tongue in cheek about it, eh? It's like at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, it's they think that if it's apocalyptic times, there's going to be nothing left in the store. If you think
Mhm.
that, like the movies that we watch, you think that there's going to be some shirts and shorts and undies and socks, you better think again, mate.
Yeah.
There won't be any of that stuff left. You see these movies where they're out, what was that, Walking Dead or all of these other things. They go
Mm.
into the stores and there's still stuff on the shelves. In apocalyptic times, there'll be absolutely nothing anywhere.
Work that way. Did 2020 teach us nothing?
Exactly, exactly. And
Well,
for that area, comfrey is really good for toilet paper. You know, foxglove is a little bit prickly, but has got a nice smooth feeling and it will heal any fuchsias that you may have. you know oh, it's crazy the stuff that you learn. It really is.
well, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me and answer some of my questions. It just leaves me with more questions.
Oh, look, any time, this is once I get resettled and stuff, I'm hoping to be able to do weekly broadcasts of just whatever comes up, ramblings, yarns, let's spin a yarn or two.
Oh, this
Let's
has been
so
amazing.
hit me up anytime, darling. This is the stuff that we need to practice. It's
Yes,
it's one thing to hear it and be inspired by it. It's another to actually get off your butt and actually practice it.
yes,
And
yes,
and sometimes it's like, well, I'm going to go and practice this. Now I'm stuck. Who do I go to ask, and are you going to be available for it? So it has to be an ongoing, like a training course, but without it
yes,
being a course.
yes,
You know,
yes. Well, um, I'm just wondering where can people find you if they have any questions, or like, do you have a YouTube or?
yes, I do have YouTube, but it's not fully. I haven't done any uploads on it. I'm on Rumble, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Discord. I have my own webpage, which is stonehobbit@weebly.com. Otherwise, just look up Stone Hobbit in most of these other places. I'm on Facebook, but if you don't give me an introduction of who you are and why you're coming to my Facebook, I won't add you. So I'm on Facebook as Christine Hansen. Otherwise, I look forward to chatting. Email me, stonehobbit2@gmail.com. Give me an introduction. Like I said, if I do, there's so many bots out there now and so many tryhards that, I don't like to waste my time, and I don't. So,
I absolutely appreciate that because I've got my little show, but I also work I'm an industrial sewing machine operator, and I've been working about 10 hours a day just to maintain, but it doesn't feel like a long day because I love what I'm doing, but it sort of makes it a little difficult, like I've had to tell people like I can't really do small talk. Like if you're messaging me, just get to the point and I will do everything that I can to help out. So I absolutely appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm like that. I'm a don't beat around the bush chick.
Yes,
Just get
yes,
straight to it so we can work it out. It's like I used to do industrial sewing.
oh,
Um, I have a knack for seeing a pattern and going, well, I don't need a pattern. I can just do it, and I'll recreate it just from. Anyway, it's just one of
that
those little things.
that's so cool. That's a whole other show. I would love to talk to you about the fiber stuff too. My goodness.
I love it. Honestly, the fiber stuff comes from both the originals from Australia, my Viking side and the Māori side. And then there's the ancestral sides that also kick in as well. The lichens, plants, the ammonias, the horse pea, the
Yep.
whole works. Making soaps, making candles, making your own pots and pans.
Oh, wow. Wow. All
It's all
right.
part
So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. And if you have any comments or questions, just drop me a line. I'm always looking for ideas. If there's something that you would like to see me address, I'm happy to do it. I'm here. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and yeah. So that's everything for this week. And thank you again for tuning in. And we'll see you again. Love you guys.
When the lights are low and the curtains are drawn, you know there's only one thing she wants you to put on.
YouTube will not monetize me, so if you enjoy my content and want to support my efforts, help me to cover my expenses by visiting my shop to buy yourself a beautiful orgone generator. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand, and they are ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. Many people are finding comfort with Zendome's orgone generators, commonly called Orgonite. They are a simple compound which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They are a simple compound with alchemic and energetic properties. These devices function as self-driven, continuously operating, highly efficient, negative to positive energy transmutation factories. They help diminish the harmful effects of electromagnetic frequency radiation by attracting and converting negative energies, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. And they help to purify the atmosphere and accelerate plant growth. They also help stimulate positive mood and are a natural remedy for poor sleep patterns. When Orgonite is within range of any corded or wireless electronic device, it will efficiently and continuously transform that energy into orgone as it is being transmitted. This essentially creates orgone energy transmitters out of any and all emitters of harmful negative energy. You can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth.
This summer. Join your fellow Starseeds, Lightworkers, and Experiencers at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference this July 15th to 18th at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort on St. Pete Beach, Florida. Over 34 Montauk Project survivors, Secret Space Program whistleblowers, ET contactees, and psychic healers will be presenting in the name of the Full Disclosure Movement. The truth must be revealed if we're all to achieve our Star Trek future here and now. This conference will be a fun and positively life-changing experience for so many. In addition to 4 days and nights of presentations, there will be special event dinners, dancing, fun time on the beach, UFO night watch tours, film screenings, vendors, and more. Get your event passes and book your stay now at fulldisclosuremovement.org.